No one could touch this bull until this boy came along. The farmer, Frank Miller, was desperate. For 3 months, ever since his old ranch hand Dave had vanished without a word, no one had been able to approach the bull emperor without facing a violent charge. The nearly 100-pound animal had become a danger at Golden Valley Farm in rural Kentucky. Then the boy appeared. Timothy was just 5 years old and arrived one Tuesday morning, brought by the town's social worker. He was the son of a distant cousin of Frank's late wife and had no one else in the world. The farmer hesitated to take the child in, but his housekeeper, Martha, a 62-year-old woman who had cared for the house for over 15 years, insisted the boy stay. "This boy has nowhere to go, Mr. Frank," Martha argued as she prepared a plate of food for Timothy. "Mrs. Margaret always said family is family, no matter how distant," Frank huffed, running a hand through his graying hair. At 58, he had lost his wife 2 years earlier to heart disease and had lived only for the farm ever since. The idea of raising a child scared him more than any angry bull. "I don't know a thing about raising a boy, Martha. This is no place for a child." "Nonsense," the housekeeper shot back, hands on her hips. "This farm has seen plenty of good folks born and raised here. The boy will adjust." Timothy ate quietly, his brown eyes taking in everything around him with curiosity. He was a thin child, with messy brown hair and simple clothes that were already too small for him. He didn't speak much, just nodded when asked something. The next day, while Frank argued with his workers about what to do with Emperor, Timothy disappeared from the house. Martha searched everywhere until she heard a faint murmur from the corral. When she got there, she nearly gasped in shock. Timothy was inside the pen, right next to the bull. Emperor, who for months had charged anyone who came near, stood still, watching the boy curiously. His nostrils flared as he sniffed the child, but showed no sign of aggression. "Timothy," Martha whispered, afraid to make any sudden movements. "Come here slowly, sweetheart." The boy turned to her and waved as if he were just playing in the yard. Then he reached his tiny hand toward the bull's muzzle. Emperor lowered his massive head and let Timothy touch him. Martha ran to fetch Frank, who was in the farm office discussing with the vet, Dr. Howard, the possibility of selling the bull. "Mr. Frank, come see this," she shouted, breathless. "What is it now, Martha?" "It's the boy. He's out there with Emperor." Frank and Dr. Howard rushed to the corral. What they saw left them speechless. Timothy had climbed onto a small pile of hay and was stroking the bull's neck, which remained completely calm. "This is impossible," Dr. Howard murmured, adjusting his glasses. "This animal's been attacking everyone who comes near. Just last week, Bob almost got gored." Frank approached the fence slowly. "Timothy, come here, son, easy now. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story." The boy looked at Frank and smiled for the first time since arriving at the farm. He gave the bull a gentle pat and walked calmly to the fence where Frank scooped him up. "How did you do that?" the farmer asked, still in disbelief. Timothy shrugged. "He was sad," he said in his small child's voice. "Just like me when I got here, Doctor." Dr. Howard walked up to the fence and observed Emperor carefully. The bull remained calm, chewing peacefully. "It's the first time in months I've seen this animal relaxed," commented the veterinarian. "Normally he gets worked up just seeing me approach." Frank Miller set Timothy down and crouched to the boy's level. "Listen carefully, Timothy. That bull is dangerous. You can't go near him when no one's around, understand?" The boy nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on Emperor. That evening during dinner, Martha couldn't stop talking about what had happened. "I've never seen anything like it, Mr. Frank. The boy has a gift with animals." "That was luck," replied Frank, cutting a piece of meat. "A bull isn't a toy. One of these days he might decide to charge." "Mrs. Margaret always said some people are born with a way with animals," Martha continued. "I remember her telling me her father, Mr. Joseph, was like that. The animals would calm down just from him being near." Timothy ate slowly, listening to the adults' conversation. Every now and then, he glanced out the window toward the corral, where Emperor must have been sleeping. "Can I visit him tomorrow?" the boy asked timidly. "No," Frank answered firmly. "I already told you it's dangerous." The boy lowered his head, disappointed. But the next day, very early, Timothy woke up before everyone else. The sun hadn't even fully risen when he left the house barefoot, wearing only shorts, and walked to the corral. Emperor stood in the center of the pen, and upon seeing Timothy approach, he walked up to the fence. The boy picked up a small bucket from the ground and went to the well to fetch fresh water. "You must be thirsty," Timothy said, placing the bucket near the fence. The bull drank while the boy spoke softly to him, telling him about his dream the night before and how much he missed his mother. "I know you miss Uncle Dave," the boy whispered. "Mrs. Martha told me he used to take care of you, but I can be your friend now." This routine repeated for several days. Timothy woke early, brought fresh water to Emperor, and talked to him for a few minutes before returning home. No one suspected, as the boy was always back before the adults woke up. The other farmhands began noticing changes in the bull's behavior. Bob, the oldest ranch hand, remarked to Frank, "Boss, Emperor's different. Yesterday I walked past the pen and he didn't even pay me any mind. Before, he'd come charging at me." "Must be sick," Frank replied. "I'll ask Dr. Howard to take a look." But when the vet arrived to examine Emperor, he found a completely healthy animal, far calmer than expected. "I don't understand," said Dr. Howard, putting away his tools. "According to the tests, he's perfect. Almost seems like a different animal." It was Bobby, Bob's 16-year-old son, who discovered Timothy's secret. One morning, he woke early to go fishing at the farm pond and saw the boy talking to Emperor. "Dad, you won't believe what I saw," Bobby told Bob at lunch. "What is it, son?" "Timothy was there at the corral, talking to Emperor like he was a person." Bob set down his fork. "Talking how?" "I swear, Dad, he was whispering and the bull was listening to everything. It was like he understood." The news reached Frank's ears that same afternoon. Furious and worried, he went looking for Timothy, who was playing in the yard with some sticks. "Timothy, come here," Frank called in a stern voice. The boy approached slowly, already sensing he was in trouble. "Is it true you've been sneaking to the corral?" Timothy lowered his head and nodded. "How many times have I told you it's dangerous?" Frank raised his voice, making the boy shrink back. "You could have gotten hurt." "But he doesn't hurt me," whispered Timothy. "He's my friend." "Friend?" Frank knelt down, gripping the boy's shoulders. "Timothy, you're 5 years old. A bull isn't anyone's friend. It's a dangerous animal that could hurt you without meaning to." Timothy's eyes filled with tears. "I won't go there anymore," he promised, his voice trembling. "That's right. And to make sure, I'll have Bob put new locks on the fence." That night, Timothy cried so much that Martha had to go to his room several times to comfort him. "Why won't Mr. Frank let me visit Emperor?" the boy asked between sobs. Martha sat on the bed and stroked his hair. "He's worried about you, sweetheart. He's afraid you'll get hurt." "But I won't. Emperor likes me." "I know, darling. But Mr. Frank has lost important people in his life. He doesn't want to lose you, too." Timothy curled up in Martha's lap. "Did he lose Aunt Margaret?" "Yes, he did, and it broke his heart. That's why he gets upset when he sees you doing dangerous things." "I didn't know," murmured Timothy. "Now you'll go to sleep, and tomorrow you two will talk properly, okay?" But the next day, Frank stood firm. He had Bob install 2 new locks on Emperor's gate and strictly forbade anyone from approaching the animal without his permission. Timothy barely spoke to anyone for days. He spent his time sitting on the porch, staring toward the corral. Sometimes Martha caught him with red eyes from crying. "A child's heart hurts just like a grown-up's," she remarked to Frank. "You're being too hard on him." "I'd rather him sad than hurt," Frank replied, unmoved. Meanwhile, Emperor also began showing signs of missing Timothy. He grew restless again, stomping his hooves and snorting whenever someone passed by. He barely ate and spent hours standing by the fence, gazing toward the house. "The bull's acting strange again," Bob observed. "Seems like he's looking for something." A week after the ban, something happened that changed everything. A violent storm hit the area overnight. Strong winds and torrential rain woke everyone on the farm. Frank went out with a lantern to check on the animals. That's when he heard a crash from Emperor's corral. Running through the rain, he reached the fence and saw a tree had fallen on part of it, leaving a gap wide enough for the bull to escape. Emperor was gone. "Bob! Bobby!" Frank shouted, waking the workers. "Emperor got out!" Within minutes, all the farmhands were up, organizing a search with lanterns and ropes. The worry was real. A bull that size loose on the property could cause serious accidents. Timothy woke to the shouting and ran to the window. Seeing the commotion, he immediately understood what had happened. Martha came in to explain. "Emperor ran off because of the storm, sweetheart. The men are looking for him." "He's scared," Timothy said, worried. "Scared?" "Of the rain and noise. He doesn't like storms." Timothy stayed at the window, watching the lanterns moving across the property. Suddenly, he felt a strange certainty about where Emperor might be. "Martha, can I go out just for a minute?" "Absolutely not, Timothy. It's pouring and it's dangerous." But the boy couldn't stay still. Something inside him told him he knew exactly where to find Emperor. He waited for Martha to leave the room and very slowly opened the window. The rain had eased, but a fine drizzle still fell. Timothy climbed out the window and ran barefoot across the property, following an instinct he couldn't explain. He passed the orchard, the vegetable garden, the barn, and then he saw it, near the old stable that hadn't been used in years, a large, familiar shadow. Emperor stood beneath the stable's partially collapsed roof, trembling not from cold, but from fear. The massive animal looked lost and frightened. "Emperor," Timothy called softly, moving closer. The bull lifted his head and, upon seeing the boy, let out a low sound, almost like a sigh of relief. Timothy walked up to him and stretched out his small hand. Emperor lowered his head and let the boy touch him. "I know you got scared," Timothy said, stroking the animal's muzzle. "But I'm here now. Let's go home." As if understanding every word, Emperor followed Timothy toward the corral. The boy walked ahead, speaking quietly, while the nearly 1,000-pound bull trailed behind him, docile as could be. That's how Frank found them. After searching for Emperor for 2 hours across the farm, the rancher was heading back to the house when he saw a sight that left him speechless. Timothy walking calmly through the drizzle, followed by the bull that had terrorized his workers for months. "Timothy!" Frank shouted, running toward them. The boy turned and waved, smiling. "I found him, Mr. Frank. He was scared in the old stable." Frank stopped a few feet away, still not believing his eyes. Emperor remained calm, standing beside Timothy, like an obedient dog. "How did you—" Frank shook his head at a loss for words. "He came with me," Timothy answered, as if it were the simplest thing. Other workers began arriving, drawn by the voices. Bob, Bobby, even Martha, who had just discovered Timothy wasn't in his room. "Timothy!" Martha cried, relieved. "You gave me such a fright." "Sorry, Martha, but I knew where he was." Dr. Howard, who had been called to help with the search, arrived just then and stared at the scene in disbelief. "In 30 years as a vet, I've never seen anything like it," he murmured. Frank stepped closer to the boy and the bull. "Timothy, how did you know where he was?" The boy thought for a moment. "When I'm sad, I like quiet places." I thought, he might too. Emperor let Frank approach and guide him back to the corral. The whole way, the bull kept his head low, close to Timothy. Later that night, as Martha gave Timothy a warm bath to wash off the chill from the rain, Frank sat in the kitchen, turning over what had happened. "Never seen anything like it," Dr. Howard remarked, sipping the coffee Martha had made. "That boy's got something special. That's what worries me," Frank replied. "Why? He saved the day." Frank sighed. "Because I don't know how to handle it. Never had a son, Dr. Howard, and now here's this boy doing things I can't explain." "Maybe you don't need to explain it," the vet suggested. "Maybe you just need to accept it." By the next day, the story of how Timothy had found Emperor had spread through the whole neighborhood. Frank got visits from curious ranchers wanting to meet the boy who tames bulls. "It's all made up," Frank told his neighbor, Richard Thompson. "The boy just got lucky, that's all." But Richard shook his head. "Frank, I've known you 20 years. You've never been one to spin tales. If you say it happened, it happened." Martha served coffee to the visitors while Timothy played in the yard, oblivious to the stir he'd caused. "Mrs. Martha," Richard said, "is it true the boy talks to the bull?" "He sure does," she answered proudly. "And Emperor listens real good." Frank rolled his eyes. "Martha, Don't go filling folks' heads with these ideas. It's not an idea, Frank. It's what I see every day. What do you mean every day? Asked Frank, suspicious. Martha realized she'd said too much. Well, sometimes I see the boy looking out the window at the corral, Martha. And maybe he's kept visiting Emperor even after you forbade it. Frank stood up from his chair. Timothy, he called firmly. The boy came running, already knowing he was in trouble again. You disobeyed me. You kept going to the corral after I told you not to. Timothy lowered his head. Just a little bit now and then. Timothy, I didn't forbid it for no reason. It's dangerous. But why is it dangerous if he likes me? The simple question left Frank speechless. John the Baptist and the other visitors watched the conversation with interest. Dr. Howard, who had stayed for coffee, stepped in. Frank, can I make a suggestion? Go ahead. How about letting me examine Emperor with Timothy nearby? That way we can better understand this connection. Frank hesitated. I don't know. I'll guarantee his safety, insisted Dr. Howard. If I see any sign of danger, I'll get the boy out immediately. Timothy looked at Frank hopefully. Please, Mr. Frank. After a long pause, Frank agreed. But at the first sign of trouble, you're both out of there. An hour later, Dr. Howard, Frank, Timothy, and a few neighbors gathered in Emperor's corral. The bull, who usually grew restless around so many people, stayed calm beside Timothy. Remarkable, murmured Dr. Howard, observing the animal's behavior. His blood pressure is normal, his breathing is steady. It's like he's a different animal. Timothy stroked Emperor's neck while Dr. Howard conducted the exam. Talk to him, the vet requested. About what? Anything. I want to see his reaction. Timothy turned to Emperor. Do you remember Uncle Dave? The boy asked. Martha told me he took good care of you. At the mention of Dave's name, Emperor pricked up his ears and made a soft sound. He had to leave, but you weren't alone. I'm here now. The bull lowered his head to Timothy's chest in what looked like an embrace. My goodness, whispered John the Baptist. I've never seen anything like it. Dr. Howard finished the exam and stepped back. Frank, I need to speak with you privately. The two moved away from the group. What is it, Doc? That boy isn't ordinary. Frank's heart raced. What do you mean, not ordinary? Easy. It's nothing bad. But he has a genuine gift with animals. I've seen cases like this before, but never as clear as his. What kind of gift? Some folks are born with a natural ability to communicate with animals. It's not mystical or supernatural. It's more like a body language and emotional connection they understand instinctively. Frank glanced at Timothy, who was still talking to Emperor. Is it dangerous? No, quite the opposite. People like him often become great vets, trainers, or ranchers. The problem is, they're often misunderstood. What do you suggest I do? Let the boy develop this gift, with supervision, of course, but don't try to suppress something that's clearly a blessing. Frank fell silent, processing the vet's words. What if there's an accident? Frank, accidents can happen anywhere. The boy could get hurt playing in the yard or slipping in the bath. We can't live fearing everything. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now continuing, that night Frank had a long talk with Martha about Timothy. Mrs. Margaret always said everything in life happens for a reason, said the housekeeper, as she washed the dinner dishes. Maybe Timothy came here because of the Emperor. Or maybe he came to give us more work, grumbled Frank. Mr. Frank, that boy brought life to this house. It's been months since I've seen you smile, and today I did. Smile when? When you saw him bringing the Emperor back. You were proud, even if you tried to hide it. Frank didn't reply, but he knew Martha was right. In the bedroom, Timothy was lying down, looking out the window toward the corral. Timothy, Frank appeared at the door. Can I talk to you? The boy sat up on the bed. Did I do something wrong? No. Frank sat beside him. I want you to explain something to me. How did you know where to find the Emperor in the storm? Timothy thought for a moment. I don't know how to explain it. It's like when I know you're sad, even when you don't say anything. I get sad? Sometimes. When you look at Aunt Margaret's picture, Frank was surprised he hadn't realized Timothy noticed. And with the Emperor it's the same. Yeah, I can feel when he's sad or scared or angry, and you're not afraid of him. Timothy shook his head. Why would I be? He'd never hurt me. How can you be so sure? Because he likes me, just like I like him. The simplicity of the answer touched Frank in a way he hadn't expected. Timothy, what if I let you visit the Emperor every day, but only when me or Martha are around? The boy's eyes lit up. Really? Really, but it has to be on my terms. Understand? I understand. Timothy jumped off the bed and hugged Frank. Thank you. It was the first time the boy had hugged him since arriving at the farm. Frank felt something warm spread through his chest. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow you can go after breakfast. The next morning, Timothy woke up early, excited about the permission he'd been given. He ate breakfast quickly and ran to the corral where the Emperor was waiting. Good morning, Emperor, Timothy said, cheerfully. Today I can stay here all day. Martha watched from the porch, smiling. Isn't it beautiful, Mr. Frank? She remarked as the farmer approached. It's a big responsibility, Frank replied, but his voice no longer held its usual harshness. Dr. Howard arrived at the farm mid-morning to observe Timothy's first official visit with the bull. I want to document this behavior, he explained. It could be useful for other similar cases. Timothy spent the whole morning in the corral, talking to the Emperor, bringing fresh water, and even trying to teach the animal simple commands. Sit, Emperor, the boy said, gesturing with his hands. To everyone's surprise, the bull lowered itself into a position resembling a sitting dog. I don't believe it, murmured Dr. Howard, jotting notes in his notebook. Stand up now, Timothy asked, and the Emperor obeyed. Bob, who had been watching from a distance, came closer. Boss, in 30 years working with cattle, I've never seen a bull follow commands like that. Neither have I, Frank admitted. At lunch, Timothy excitedly recounted his morning with the Emperor. He learned to sit and stand when I tell him, the boy said eagerly. Tomorrow I'll teach him to come when I call. Slow down, champ, said Frank. One thing at a time. But he learns fast, and he likes learning. Martha served more food onto Timothy's plate. Eat up. You used a lot of energy today. Martha, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. What was Aunt Margaret like? Frank stopped chewing. It was the first time Timothy had asked about his wife. Martha glanced at Frank, silently asking permission to answer. She was a very special person, said Martha tenderly. She loved animals just like you. She had a mare named Star who only obeyed her, like Emperor does with me. Quite similar, yes. Timothy looked at Frank. Do you miss her? The direct question caught Frank off guard. I do, he answered honestly. I miss her a lot. I miss my mom too, said Timothy, but Martha told me the people we love stay in our hearts even when they're not here anymore. Frank felt his eyes grow moist. Martha is right. Then maybe Aunt Margaret is happy seeing me take care of Emperor now. The boy's simple words touched Frank deeply. For the first time since his wife's death, he felt a strange peace, as if she truly approved of the situation. That afternoon, Timothy returned to the barn with Martha. Emperor greeted him eagerly, wagging his tail and making soft, contented sounds. Look how happy he is to see you, Martha observed. He told me he missed me, Timothy said matter-of-factly. Told you. Not with words, but I understand what he means. Martha watched the boy interacting with the bull and had a strange feeling, as if she were witnessing something too special to be a coincidence. That night, she went to Frank's room, where he was sorting through some papers. Frank, can I ask you something? Of course. What did Mrs. Margaret say about Timothy when he was a baby? Frank stopped writing. Timothy? He was never here as a baby. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure, Martha. Why do you ask? Well, today I was organizing Mrs. Margaret's things and found some old photos. There's a child who looks like Timothy. Martha showed a yellowed photo of Margaret holding a baby, standing beside a young woman. Frank took the photo and studied it closely. That's Caroline, Margaret's cousin, he said, pointing to the woman. And that must be her son. Wasn't Caroline Timothy's mother? Frank paused to think. The social worker said Timothy was the son of a distant cousin, but I don't remember the name. What if it was Caroline? If it was, that means Timothy has been here before. The two fell silent, processing the discovery. Look for more photos, Frank asked. I want to be sure. Martha spent the rest of the night going through Margaret's albums. She found several photos of cousin Caroline visiting the farm, always with a baby who grew into a small child who looked just like Timothy. In the last photo, dated 3 years earlier, a child of about 2 was playing in the farmyard. In the background, a small calf could be seen in the pasture. My God, Martha whispered, it's Timothy. And that calf. She rushed to Frank's room. Frank, wake up. What is it now, Martha? Look at this photo. Frank put on his glasses and examined the image. It really is Timothy. He's been here before. And look at the calf in the background. Frank looked closer. That's Emperor when he was a baby. Exactly. They've known each other since they were little. The discovery changed everything. The next morning, Frank found Timothy in the yard. Timothy, come here. I want to show you something. He sat on the ground beside the boy and showed him the photos. Do you remember being here before? Timothy studied the photos carefully. I think I remember some things. There's a song Aunt Margaret used to sing. What song? Timothy began humming a soft melody. It was the same song Margaret used to sing while cooking. I knew it, Frank said, moved. You were already family before you even came to live here. What about Emperor? He remembers you too. That's why you two got along so well. Timothy looked at the photos again. Can I keep one? Of course. The boy chose a photo where he was sitting on Margaret's lap, with Emperor as a calf playing nearby. Now I understand why I feel at home here, said Timothy. And why Emperor trusts you so much, added Frank. From that day on, the relationship between Frank, Timothy, and Emperor became even more special. The farmer began to see the boy not as a burden, but as an important part of the family that had returned. Timothy started helping with the other farm animals. They discovered he had the same calming effect on horses, cows, and even the chickens. His presence transformed the farm's routine in a way no one expected. I've never seen the animals so calm, Bob remarked. It's like the boy brought peace here. Frank began teaching Timothy about animal care, farm management, and even some basic veterinary lessons with Dr. Howard's help. This boy has the potential to be a great vet, Dr. Howard said during a visit, or maybe an animal behavior specialist. He's only 5, Frank replied. He's got plenty of time to decide what he wants to be. True, but it's good to plant the seeds early. Timothy progressed quickly. He learned to read with Martha, did basic math with Frank, and absorbed everything the adults taught him about animals. Emperor became not just his best friend, but also a kind of work partner. The bull helped Timothy teach the other farm animals, serving as an example of calm and obedient behavior. Look, Emperor, Timothy would say to the bull. Patches is scared of the shot. Show her how it's done. Emperor would approach the cow and stand still while Dr. Howard gave a demonstration shot. The cow, seeing the bull wasn't afraid, would calm down too. Amazing, Dr. Howard murmured every time he witnessed these scenes. But not everything was perfect. One day a man named Richard Thompson showed up at the farm, interested in buying Emperor. I heard you have an exceptional breeding bull, Richard said to Frank. Emperor isn't for sale, Frank replied immediately. I haven't named a price. Yet, I'll give you 15 grand for him. The amount was tempting. Frank knew the farm had been struggling financially since Margaret's death. 15,000 would solve a lot of problems. I need to think about it, Frank said reluctantly. Think about what? It's a good offer for a bull that's only good for breeding. He's good for other things too. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. Richard laughed. What other things? Bulls are for making calves, nothing else. Timothy, who was playing in the yard, overheard the conversation and ran over to the adults. Are you selling Emperor? He asked, worried. We're just talking, Frank said. So this is the boy they say tames the bull? Richard asked, eyeing Timothy up and down. He doesn't tame anyone, Frank said defensively. They're friends. Friends, Richard guffawed. Bulls don't have friends, old man. They have owners. Timothy gave Richard a disapproving look. Emperor isn't mine, he's my friend. Sure, kid, and I'm friends with my chickens too. Richard's sarcasm annoyed Timothy, but the boy stayed quiet. So, what do you say? Richard pressed Frank. 15 grand cash. I'll think about it and give you an answer tomorrow. After Richard left, Frank walked around the farm pondering the offer. 15,000 would cover the overdue debts and leave money left for property improvements. Timothy found him near Star's pen. Mr. Frank, are you really going to sell him? I don't know, Timothy. The farm needs the money. But what if Star gets sad in a new home? He'll adjust. How do you know? Frank didn't have an answer. What if he doesn't adjust? What if he gets like when Uncle Dave left? Timothy's question touched a wound Frank had been trying to ignore. Star had taken it hard when Dave left. Who was to say he wouldn't take it even worse if he were sold? Timothy, sometimes we have to make tough choices. But he trusts us. It'd be like us leaving him all alone. Frank looked at Star, grazing peacefully, unaware of the conversation that would decide his fate. I'll talk to Martha about Kid. That night, Frank laid out the dilemma to the housekeeper. $15,000, Martha, that's a lot of money. It sure is, Mr. Frank, but is it worth it? What do you mean, is it worth breaking Timothy's heart and Star's? Martha, don't exaggerate, he's just a bull. To Timothy, he's not just a bull, he's his best friend. And to Star, Timothy's the only one he trusts. Frank sighed. You think I'm being too sentimental? I think you're being human. Mrs. Margaret would be proud. How do you know? Because she always said money comes and goes, but real love lasts forever. The next morning, Timothy woke early and went straight to Star's pen. The bull seemed to sense something was different, staying closer to the boy than usual. I don't know if you'll get to stay, Timothy said, hugging Star's neck, but I want you to know I'll never forget you. Star let out a low sound and lowered his head until it touched Timothy's. Martha, watching from the porch, wiped her eyes. When Richard arrived for Frank's answer, he found the farmer waiting on the porch. So? Made up your mind? I have. Star's not for sale. Not for sale. I offered 15 grand. And I appreciate that, but he's not for sale. Why? Because of the boy. Because of the whole family. Star's part of our family. Richard shook his head, annoyed. You'll regret this. An old bull's worthless. Then I'd better keep him. After Richard left, Timothy came running. Mr. Frank, the man left. Does that mean Star gets to stay? He stays. Timothy jumped for joy and hugged Frank tightly. Thank you. Thank you. But you'll have to help me even more around the farm. Okay. Since we're not selling Star, we'll have to work twice as hard. I'll help. I'll do anything. The decision to keep Star brought new energy to the farm. Timothy, grateful, threw himself into caring for the animals. Frank noticed the boy's presence not only improved the animals' behavior, but the farm's productivity too. The cows gave more milk, the hens laid more eggs, and the horses were easier to handle. You've got a special gift, Timothy, Dr. Howard said during a visit. Ever thought about studying to be a vet when you grow up? Can I study to be a vet and still live here with Mr. Frank and Star? Of course, Frank replied. This is your home. The word home filled Timothy with a happiness he'd never known. For the first time since losing his mother, he felt truly safe. But the peace was shattered when Star began acting strange. The bull, always lively and healthy, grew listless and lost his appetite. This isn't normal, Dr. Howard observed, examining him. Temperature's fine, blood pressure's good. Physically, he's fine. Timothy stayed by Emperor's side throughout the entire exam. He's sad, the boy said. Sad how? Like when you feel you're about to lose someone important. Dr. Howard and Frank Miller exchanged worried glances. Timothy, you said you can feel animals' emotions, right? I can. And what exactly do you feel from Emperor right now? Timothy placed his hand on the bull's neck and closed his eyes for a moment. He's scared. Scared of what? Of being alone again. Dr. Howard stepped closer to Frank. It's possible the animal has developed separation anxiety. He realized he was almost sold and now fears being abandoned again. How do we treat this? With patience and consistency, Timothy needs to spend even more time with him, showing he won't leave. Timothy practically spent the whole day in the pen over the next few days. He brought his meals to eat beside Emperor, did his homework sitting near the bull, and even slept some nights in the hay. "You can't sleep in the pen every night," Frank said, "but he has nightmares when I'm not here." "How do you know?" "Because he tells me the next day." Frank was starting to accept that the bond between Timothy and Emperor went beyond what he could rationally understand. Gradually, Emperor began to improve. He started eating normally again, regained his energy, and resumed his routine of interactions with Timothy. "The boy saved the bull," Dr. Howard remarked. "Without him, Emperor probably would have developed severe depression." "Animals can get depressed?" "They sure can, especially the smarter ones like bulls and horses." Emperor's recovery strengthened the bond between him and Timothy even more. The boy began teaching the bull more complex tricks, which he learned with surprising ease. "Come, Emperor," Timothy would say, pointing to a specific spot. The bull obeyed immediately. "Now stop." Emperor stopped right away. "Lie down." The bull lay on the ground. "Get up." Emperor stood up. Bob and the other workers paused their tasks to watch the training sessions. "Never seen a bull obey commands like that," Bob repeated, amazed. Timothy and Emperor's reputation began to spread through the region. Farmers came from far away to see the boy who trains bulls and asked for advice on handling difficult animals. "Bring the animal here," Timothy would tell visitors. "Let me talk to him," and it always worked. Timothy could calm skittish horses, aggressive cows, and even dogs that wouldn't obey their owners. "How do you do that?" a farmer asked after Timothy soothed a horse that hadn't let anyone near it for weeks. "I listen to what they're trying to say," Timothy replied as if it were that simple. "But they don't talk." "Yes, they do, just in a different way." Frank realized Timothy was building a reputation that could become a source of income for the farm. "What if we started charging for Timothy's consultations?" he suggested to Martha. "I don't know if it's right to charge for a gift God gave him, but we could use the money to improve the farm, and Timothy loves helping animals." "Ask him." Timothy was excited by the idea. "Can I help more animals?" "You sure?" "Can. And the money we earn will go toward taking better care of our own animals." "Then it's a deal." Timothy's veterinary consultations became a thriving business. Farmers from all over brought their troubled animals, and Timothy managed to solve most cases. Frank invested the earnings in farm improvements. He renovated the facilities, bought new equipment, and even built a makeshift clinic where Timothy could tend to visiting animals. "We're making progress," Frank told Martha. "The farm has never been better." "And Timothy had never been so happy," she added. It was true. Timothy had transformed from a shy, frightened boy into a confident child full of purpose. His skill with animals gave him security and self-esteem. Emperor remained his main partner, helping with demonstrations and serving as an example for other animals. "Look, Wild Horse," Timothy would say to a skittish horse, "Emperor was just as wild as you. But now he's my friend, you can be too." And it worked. The horse would calm down, influenced by Emperor's peaceful presence and Timothy's gentle voice. Dr. Howard began bringing veterinary students to observe Timothy's work. "This is more effective than any sedative," he explained to the students. "The boy can communicate with animals on an emotional frequency that we adults have lost." "Is that scientific?" asked one student. "It's starting to be. There are studies on interspecies communication suggesting some humans retain a primitive ability to connect emotionally with animals." Timothy didn't understand all the scientific theory, but he knew he had important work to do. Every day he woke up excited to help more animals and spend time with Emperor. Life at Golden Valley Farm settled into a harmonious rhythm. Timothy studied in the mornings with Martha, helped Frank Miller with farm chores in the afternoons, and devoted his evenings to special sessions with visiting animals. Emperor participated in every activity, like a loyal and protective assistant. "You two are quite the pair," Frank remarked, watching Timothy and Emperor work together to calm a nervous mare. "We're family," Timothy corrected. The word family, struck Frank deeply. It had been a long time since he'd felt part of a real family. "That's right," he agreed. "We are family." Martha, listening from the porch, smiled tearfully. "Miss Margaret's watching all this from above," she murmured, "and she's proud." Life at Golden Valley Farm had found a new balance. Timothy brought not only his special gift with animals, but also love, joy, and renewed purpose for everyone. Frank rediscovered the joy of teaching and caring. Martha found a new reason to be maternal, and Timothy discovered not just a home, but a calling that honored his natural gift. Emperor, once a troubled and aggressive animal, became a symbol of how love and patience can transform any situation. "You know what I've learned from you two," Frank said to Timothy one afternoon as they watched Emperor grazing peacefully. "What?" "That sometimes the most important things in life come when we least expect them." Timothy smiled. "Like how I came here." "Exactly like how you came here," the boy hugged Frank. "I love you, Mr. Frank." "I love you too, son." It was the first time Frank had called Timothy his son, and the first time he truly felt like a father. Martha, watching from the kitchen as she prepared dinner, had to pause to wipe away tears. "Family," she whispered. "Finally, a family again." That night, Timothy fell asleep with a smile, dreaming of all the animals he could still help. Frank lay down feeling whole for the first time in years, and Martha prayed, thanking God for witnessing the miracle of love transforming lives. In the barn, Emperor slept peacefully, unconsciously knowing he had found not just a home, but a family that loved and protected him. The farm breathed peace, a peace hard won through suffering but now solid and lasting. Timothy had arrived as a scared orphan. Frank had taken him in reluctantly. Emperor had been a troubled, aggressive animal. But true love had transformed everything. The boy became a son, the farmer became a father, the bull became a loyal friend, and the farm became a home where everyone was accepted and valued. A few mornings later, Timothy woke with a strange certainty in his chest. He ran to the barn and found Emperor waiting for him with a different look in his eyes. "Good morning." "Emperor," Timothy said as always. But this time, when he reached out to stroke the bull, Emperor did something he had never done before. He bowed his head in a respectful nod, as if thanking Timothy for all he had done for him. Timothy understood the silent message and smiled. "You're welcome, my friend. Thank you too." It was a simple moment, but one filled with meaning. It represented not just the gratitude between two beings who loved each other, but the celebration of a bond that had saved them all. Frank Miller, watching from the shadows, felt his heart swell with deep and serene happiness. His family was complete, his life had purpose, and his farm had become a place where true love could flourish in all its forms. The story of Timothy and Emperor became legend in the region, not just for the extraordinary connection between boy and bull, but as living proof that love, patience, and understanding can overcome any barrier. Visitors came from far away, not only to solve problems with their animals, but to witness the beauty of a family formed through hardship and strengthened by unconditional love. Timothy grew up knowing he had a special place in the world, not just as the boy who could talk to animals, but as part of a family that loved him exactly as he was. Frank Miller aged with dignity and purpose, knowing he had raised an exceptional son and would leave behind a legacy of love and compassion. Martha remained the heart of the home, caring for everyone with her maternal wisdom and unconditional love. And Emperor lived out his days in peace and happiness, surrounded by people who understood and respected him. Golden Valley Farm became a sanctuary where animals and humans lived in perfect harmony, proving that true love knows no species, only open hearts willing to give and receive. Years later, when Timothy was a young man studying veterinary medicine, he still woke every morning to greet Emperor, and the bull, now old but still strong, continued to respond with the same affection and trust as always. "Some friends are for life," Timothy would tell visitors who asked about his bond with Emperor, "and some families are chosen by the heart," Frank Miller would add, proud of the son fate had given him. The farm thrives to this day, not just as a business, but as a symbol that true love can transform any situation, no matter how difficult it may seem at first. Timothy became a renowned veterinarian, specializing in animal behavior. Emperor remained his partner and inspiration. Frank Miller found the peace and happiness he thought he had lost forever. And Martha had the joy of watching her family grow and flourish. Sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as challenges. The story of Timothy and Emperor is proof that when we open our hearts to love, it always finds a way to transform our lives in ways we never imagined possible. The E. And now tell me, what did you think of this touching story of Timothy and Emperor? Do you believe some people are truly born with a special gift for connecting with animals? Leave your honest thoughts in the comments. We love reading your opinions. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one. Your companionship means the world to us.